The name Rolls-Royce derives from a partnership created in 1904 between Frederick Henry Royce and Charles Stuart Rolls, who both came from completely different backgrounds. Henry Royce was born in 1863 at a small village called Arwalton near Peterborough in the east of England. His father, James Royce, managed a watermill and a small farm. But times were hard and the business failed completely. James had to take his two sons, Henry and James Jr., to London to seek work in 1865. And unfortunately, in 1872, the father died, leaving 9-year-old Henry on his own in London and having to seek work. For a year, he sold newspapers for the W.H. Smith Company, and then he became a telegraph boy for the post office. Henry had always been fascinated by things mechanical, and his luck changed when an aunt offered him some help and got him an apprenticeship at the Great Northern Railway Works in Peterborough, the cradle of many great British engineers. He found accommodation with a Mr. Yarrow, who, in his garden shed, taught young Henry how to use hand and bench tools and a lathe. Unfortunately, after 3 years, the aunt could no longer afford the premium, which in those days you had to pay to be an apprentice, and his apprenticeship was terminated. Henry had begun to take a very keen interest in the developing world of electricity, and he eventually managed to get a job with the Electric Light and Power Company in London, attending night classes at the London Polytechnic to improve his technical knowledge. In 1874, he decided that the best course of action was to work for himself, and with a friend called Ernest Claremont and a joint capital of £70, they set up as an electrical manufacturing company in Cook Street, Manchester. The company made electric bells, lamp holders, switches, measuring instruments, dynamos and cranes, and because Henry was a perfectionist in his work and demanded perfection also from his employees, the company was very successful. Henry decided that he could afford a new house for his wife and family, and he bought a very fine cottage on the outskirts of Manchester. In order to travel to his works, he also decided to purchase a motor car, a 10-horsepower, 2-cylinder French car called a Decauville, the 1901 model. He found that the standard of construction and workmanship was not to his liking, and it was unreliable and noisy. He decided that the best option was to improve on the design and build his own car. He selected one of his mechanics, named Ernie Mills, and 2 young apprentices, Tom Holdenby and Eric Flatford, and they were put to work to construct a new car to Royce's design. The car ran very well and very smoothly, and was extremely quiet and reliable, and the team were asked to make 2 more cars to the same design. Let us leave the Royce story there for a moment to consider the other famous name in the partnership, Charles Stuart Rolls. Rolls was from a completely different world to Royce. He was the 3rd son of Lord and Lady Clangattock, who lived in a fine stately home in Wales. He went to school at Eton and then took an engineering degree at Trinity College, Cambridge. He had a great love of motor cars, and in 1902 he set up a company, C.S. Rolls and Company, for the sale of motor vehicles. With his privileged aristocratic background, which made a great deal of difference in 1902, he was able to sell vehicles to the nobility and gentry, but the cars were virtually all imported, and Charles Rolls was disappointed that he did not have a British car to sell. Now, a friend of Rolls had heard about the Royce cars in the Manchester area and suggested to him that he ought to go and visit Royce. This was arranged, and they met on the 4th of May 1904 for lunch in the Midland Hotel in Manchester. Their enthusiasm for cars overcame their social differences, and following the meal, Royce took Rolls for a ride in the little Royce car, and Rolls was very captivated. They decided to form a new company, Rolls-Royce, and the rest, as they say, is history. Charles Stuart Rolls drove some of the new cars in various trials and competitions and won the Isle of Man TT race in 1906. The cars were beginning to sell well in the United States, and in 1908 Rolls went to America and met the Wright brothers. He was instantly converted to flying and took up ballooning in a big way, having a Rolls-Royce car specially converted to carry his balloon. Unfortunately, in 1910, he became the first Englishman to be killed in a flying accident, taking part in a competition near Bournemouth. He was therefore only concerned with the company for 6 years. Henry Royce was deeply shocked at his friend's sudden death and was also exhausted through overwork and his constant quest for absolute perfection. He became very ill and had to have a nurse appointed to look after him. She was Ethel Aubyn, who remained with him for the rest of his life. Henry Royce lived on until 1933, the year in which he was also made a baronet. He worked on the development of a range of Rolls-Royce cars and also developed the Merlin aircraft engine, which powered the Spitfire and Hurricane fighters and Lancaster bombers in the Second World War. In 1972, I purchased my first Rolls-Royce automobile, a 1951 silver Wraith limousine. I enjoyed using this car for 32 years and then moved on to my present model, a 1989 Silver Spirit. The number plate on this car is now BWV608. BWV is the Bach-Werke Verzeichnis, the numbering system identifying compositions by Johann Sebastian Bach. BWV 608 is in dulci jubilo in the Organbuchlein. I am involved in helping to train some of the best young organists in the UK and am currently president of the Organ Club, a worldwide organisation for friends of the organ. The number on my Rolls-Royce attracts attention whenever I am with fellow organ enthusiasts.